We move into the wonderful world now of hydrogen, and I must admit this is a subject that I'm very interested in. I made the comment this morning that I think of it as a lossless emissions-free battery or whatever you like. It's a very exciting new area. There's lots of exciting things being done in this country. I know that CSIRO has made some pretty interesting breakthroughs. A number of very exciting scenarios being painted for the use of hydrogen in coming years. Our first speaker is Emelia Addo. She is a Stakeholder Engagement Manager at Standards Australia. She's responsible for the oil and gas and water and waste services sectors. Her role is designed to bring industry, government and academia together. Best of luck with that. Together to identify opportunities for the standardisation in Australia and globally. She's the hydrogen lead. It's her role to ensure that Australia is participating in the development and adoption of standards to support the emerging hydrogen industry. Within the plumbing sector, Emelia works closely with the Australian Building Codes Board, with regulators and industry in the development of product standards and changes to the AUS NZS 3500 series plumbing code. And she's also a Standards Australia member on the Plumbing Codes Committee. You can read more about it in your handbook. Please welcome Emelia Addo from Standards Australia to speak to you on the world of standards, the emerging hydrogen economy. Welcome, Emelia.
So I know that when you come to a plumbing conference and you hear hydrogen, it's probably not the first thing that comes to mind when you come to a conference like this, but the importance and the fact that it's become such a hot topic here in Australia and really globally and around the world really makes it an important topic to discuss today, and particularly when we talk about its application in the gas networks. So as we've been told, my name is Emelia, and I really do want to thank the World Plumbing Conference for having me here today and for allowing Standards Australia the opportunity to speak with you on this topic. Now, my presentation today really will take somewhat of a narrow focus on the application, on the potential applications for hydrogen in this sector. And this is because the opportunities and the applications for hydrogen really are very, very vast, and they are still being explored, both within this sector and various other sectors as well. So we'll get straight into it. So who is Standards Australia? So Standards Australia are a not-for-profit, independent, non-government standards development organisation. We were formed in 1922, which means that we're almost 100 years old, so we've been around quite a while. We are recognised here in Australia as the peak standards development body, and we have the responsibility of representing Australia and Australian interests, both at the International Organisation for Standardisation, ISO, and also at the International Electrotechnical Commission, which is the IEC. So we're all about developing and adopting standards that provide a net benefit to Australia. And to do this, we ensure that our projects have the buy-in from Australian stakeholders. Considering we've been around for a number of years, we have become a trusted partner of government, of industry, and of the community. And for that reason, we are able to support the industry and the Australian public to be able to provide solutions that do benefit the market. So why do standards matter, and why is it actually important? So standards are important for a variety of reasons, and I've broadly categorised them into 5 buckets here. So number 1, standards are trusted and they're recognised. So Australian standards and standards in general really ensure that goods and services are fit for purpose, that they're reliable, and that they actually do the job that they are intended to do. People trust standards right around the world, and most times the Australian community expect that processes and services meet an Australian standard or a level of quality. The next reason is around access to markets. So by participating in international standards committees, we give exporters and manufacturers the confidence that they can reach global markets. We provide that security in the knowledge that their market will at least be able to perform globally. and that the international standards that they use, or the national standards that they use that are recognised around the world, will give them the confidence that they can get their product to the market sooner. Economies of scales is another reason. Standards can save businesses time, they can save businesses money. This is because they cut production costs, drive efficiencies, and increase productivity. Because standards use a common language and common specifications, they can reduce business costs, they can foster technology and also support innovation. Consumer confidence is another reason. So standards establish, as I mentioned, that common language which defines quality and safety. And compliance with an Australian standard or a recognised international standard really does give consumers the confidence that they need when purchasing a good or service. And lastly, level playing fields. So standards help companies compete on a more level playing field, promoting greater competition amongst industry participants and also the wider economy. So getting straight into hydrogen. So in my presentation today, I want to take you through a brief introduction to hydrogen, an example of its application and why standards are important for supporting this industry, what Standards Australia are actually doing in this space as well, and how you can get involved. So I know in the beginning of my presentation, I said that hydrogen is becoming, or really I should probably say, has become quite a hot topic here in Australia, and I want to be able to unpack that a little bit more for you today. Now, before I go on, I do want to qualify that I'm not a hydrogen expert in this space. However, in my role as a stakeholder engagement manager, I do have the ability to be able to interact with experts daily who are experts in this topic or experts in gas or the application of hydrogen. And that has given me a greater appreciation for the opportunities that exist here in Australia and for Australia, and the importance of standards to support this industry. So starting with the basics, scientifically, hydrogen is a chemical element with the symbol H. It's the lightest element in the periodic table, which represents and has a number of benefits and risks. Some benefits being that it's environmentally friendly, that it dissipates quickly. Some risks being that it's highly flammable, like some gas, most gas that you would be familiar with today. As you can see from the joint ministerial statement above, in Australia, hydrogen has been identified as a key player in providing an economically, socially and environmentally sustainable and prosperous future. So why then is this important? And what are the driving forces behind this new industry? Well, one, it's around the need to decarbonise and about the transition to a low emission technologies and a low emission economy in order to meet Australia's targets around emissions. Two, it's around the rising demand markets that exist today. Countries such as Japan, South Korea and others have all either explicitly expressed demand for hydrogen or have released strategies around their transition to a hydrogen economy. The communities are another driving force. Their desire for affordable and reliable fuel and gas is another driving force here, both of which hydrogen can assist with. In Australia, we have an abundance of natural resources. We have solar, we have wind, and it can all be used to produce hydrogen reliably. It also means that by transitioning to hydrogen, we can be less reliant on resources such as oil from other countries as well. Because of the vast applications of hydrogen, the Australian Chief Scientist, Dr. Alan Finkel, put together a proposal to the Council of Australian Government to develop a national hydrogen strategy. This was approved, and today we almost have a strategy in place, and this is thanks to the efforts of the Commonwealth, states and territories, and a number of industry players as well. But perhaps one of the most important opportunities for Australia and perhaps the most relevant for the audience today, is the use of hydrogen domestically. So there are currently a number of projects underway to test the feasibility and the use of hydrogen in existing appliances, and in existing gas infrastructure. Once all this testing and research is complete, this may result in changes to standards and to the overall regulatory and legislative framework in this space. On the board here, on the slide here, I have some examples, just a brief snapshot of some of the pilot projects that are taking place currently. And what I want to do is just unpack one of these ones today, looking more closely at the Gemina Power to Gas demonstration plant. So on the slide here, what we can get is a brief idea of how hydrogen can be used practically in our homes. So behind me, I have a beautiful illustration by ARENA, the Australian Renewable Energy Agency, showcasing how hydrogen can be produced and used domestically. What it shows is that hydrogen can be produced from a renewable source such as wind or solar through a process known as electrolysis, and how potentially it can be injected into existing gas networks and blended with current natural gas today and used to power household appliances that currently use gas. So what actually happens if this illustration becomes a reality? And why is that actually important for you and I to know? It's important because a change like this could impact how we work and consumers' expectations on quality and safety. And this is where Standards Australia plays a role in ensuring that any change to how Australians operate, especially in sectors that are underpinned by standards, that we stay involved in those conversations and assist industry, government, and the community in this transition. On the slide here, I've picked out a few use cases of hydrogen. As I mentioned earlier, the applications are still being explored and they are quite vast. Focusing on hydrogen's application in the gas networks, though, for example, any introduction of hydrogen into the gas networks could impact existing standards on how appliances and other household or commercial goods are installed or used. It may also result in the need to develop new standards to ensure that the appropriate standards are in place to actually maintain the level of quality and safety that Australians expect. What it might also do is it might also change the way Australians operate. For example, we may need to buy new appliances. Plumbers, gas fitters may need to be mindful of any differences in installations and maintenance of hydrogen-powered appliances to ensure that there are no unintended consequences. Regulators may need to change their regulations to ensure that safety is being maintained. Because of these unknowns, this is why significant work has been put in by industry and by government to ensure that the necessary framework is actually in place and the appropriate education, standards, and regulations are in place to support this transition, and why the National Hydrogen Strategy is also being developed to help spearhead Australia's response to the opportunities that hydrogen present. So what Standards Australia doing in this space, and how are we actually supporting this industry? So Standards Australia is very excited to be operating and supporting the hydrogen industry. We kickstarted our journey last year with a National Hydrogen Forum. And this is where we invited experts from across the country to discuss the opportunities that exist through hydrogen and the needs for standards to be able to support the industry. A key outcome of that forum was actually for us to participate on an international hydrogen standards committee at the ISO. And now that we have that constituted committee who do participate internationally, We now have the role of reviewing existing standards, existing national standards, and the need for the adoption of international standards to be able to adequately support the industry here. So we have a committee and a number of working groups under that main technical committee that are focused on doing that. The review will then form the basis of a program of work, which will then formulate a hydrogen roadmap of sorts, which will then help guide the industry on how standards will play a role in supporting this industry. The good news is that Standards Australia is not new though. We're not a stranger to the new and emerging. And we have a history in operating in innovative areas, new areas. And hydrogen is and will be no different. On the screen behind me are a number of examples of where Standards Australia are playing a key role in the new and emerging industries. And particularly, and a number of these industries are also of relevance specifically to the plumbing sector as well. So why is it important for Standards Australia to be involved in some of these new areas? Well, it's important because we want to promote awareness of using domestic and international standards. We want to be able to boost efficiency, increase productivity, and maximise growth. And we want to be able to support Australia's industry in participating in global supply chains. So if any of this actually excites you, or you are keen to get involved and you have the expertise in any of the areas that I had on the slide just before, or particularly in hydrogen, then there are opportunities to get involved in this space. Whether that be participating through forums or via workshops, or participating on a technical committee, working groups, we want that participation, and you're more than welcome to join. We also have a Next Gen program as well, which is really all about getting our young professionals who are interested in standards and want to get involved in the space the opportunity to do so. So in closing, hydrogen is an important resource for Australia, and the opportunities really are endless, not only for this sector, but also for a number of sectors as well. Standards play a key role in supporting this space, and will play a key role in supporting this space. And Standards Australia really are in the business of being able to support industry, government, community, academia in finding solutions that will result in quality and safe products. There's room to get involved in this space, so please feel free to get in touch with me on the email here, or give me a phone call, or you can also come and visit us at the exhibition booth. Thank you.